So you want to be cool. You want to have a cool car, but you don't got the funds. What if I was to tell you, though, that you can have a cool looking, stylish car for under $10,000? That's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm your host, Keith Sweeney with Wheels and Whiskey, where we drive fast and sip slowly. Let's get started. Now, this first car on our list is all about luxury. When you see this car and you see its emblem, you think, wow, that's fancy. That person's got money. We're talking about the Audi S5. It's got performance, it's got technology, it's got a sleek look. So let's dive into the Audi S5. Under the hood of the Audi S5 packs a punch with a 3.0-liter supercharged V6 engine that produces 333 horsepower and 325 pounds of torque. That means you get 0 to 60 in just 4.4 seconds. 4.4, son, you hear me? That's fast. And not only is it fast, it looks good doing it. Now, the cool part about the Audi is the interior. It is beautiful. In this time frame of this car, you got pure luxury. We're talking leather seating, bucket seats for the driver, and it's a coupe, so you still got a back seat, kind of, sort of. You probably could fit somebody back there, but it came in a manual or automatic. Me, I preferred a manual. I had one, absolutely love it. The technology was great, the dash was great, and it just felt comfortable. And it was a big coupe. It felt like you had space. It had sunroof, it had heated seats, it had everything. You can just make it look incredible. You can throw some coilovers on it, put it on air ride. There's a lot of aftermarket parts for this car. And you know what? You can find these for under $10,000 all day. So yeah, first car on our list is the Audi S5. Go get you one. Now this next car is on the more reliable side. It's not as big as this last coupe, but it's pretty cool. Check this out. We're talking about the 7th gen Toyota Celica. Yes, you heard me right, the Celica. It is so underappreciated and people just forget about it. But you talk about an aggressive, sleek looking coupe that you got to grab. Under the hood, the Celica does not have a lot of power, but it makes up for that in a lot of ways. But let's talk about the motors for start. Now, there's two types of motors that came with the Celica. The base model came with a 1.8 4-cylinder, and then it produces about 140 horsepower, where the GTS model, with a more spirited 1.8 4-cylinder, that engine revs to about 8,000 RPM, making about 180 horsepower. It's pretty impressive for a small little compact car. Like I said, it is not a fast car, but it is a reliable car. Let's talk about the interior on the Celica. Now, I will say it's nothing to go crazy over. To be honest with you, it's just a simple, nice, smooth driving car. Now, I will say it did come with some nice, sporty bucket seats in the front. And honestly, that's the only cool factor about that part. But there's a lot of upgrades that you can do. You can upgrade the steering wheel, you can upgrade the audio, you can even upgrade your seats if you want to. There's not too much to talk about except for it's just a good daily when it comes to interior. Where the Celica, it makes a difference and where it stands out and why people like it so much is the exterior. Toyota nailed it out of the park with this one, I think, because it looks aggressive. It's got sleek body lines. It's got a nice wing on it. There are so many different just curve and sex appeal that car gives. And the aftermarket support for it is really, really big. It doesn't take much to take one of those cars to make it look just absolutely awesome. Bumper, hood, some maybe side skirts, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't take much. It's just a good little car that looks good. And you don't see many of them go down the road at all. And so when you do, you're like, oh man, that's sharp. It's a clean car. I think this car makes an absolutely great car that you can get for under 10 grand. You could probably find them under $5,000, to be honest with you. And of course, I recommend getting the manual. That's just me. It's front wheel drive, but it's just one of those that if you want to be part of the car scene for the low, but look good doing it, Toyota Celica. Now, this next car on my list is probably one of my absolute favorites. I have yet to own one yet, but I plan on getting one. It's gonna happen just because I gotta get one. And we're talking about the Infiniti G35. Oh man, this car, it really grinds my gears. Let's talk about some Japanese luxury. Under the hood, you'll find a 3.5-liter V6 engine that puts out about 280 horsepower and 270 foot-pounds of torque. Paired with either a 5-speed automatic or a 6-speed manual transmission. It depends on the model. This car just gives a fantastic balance of performance and smooth for just everyday driving. But not only can you do that, you can drift in it, you can make it a show car, you can do whatever you want to this car just because of its platform that it is. It's a good looking car with good guts as well. Not just motor, but just interior. They got sunroofs, they got a back seat so you can throw a kid in the back if you want to, or maybe even some homies. And it's got a lot of space. So if you're on a little bit of the heftier side, you can fit okay. But the interior just looks really good. Another cool feature about the G35 is it's the same platform as the Nissan 350Z. That means you get rear-wheel drive, a low center of gravity, and superb handling. Whether you're taking it down twisty back roads or just enjoying some highway cruising, the G35 delivers an exhilarating driving experience. And like I said, if you're a shifty boy, you can slide that bad boy as well. I think it looks really cool. Most people don't like that look, but it's pretty neat. It's just the fact that you can do it is really cool. The G35, go get you one, get it fast while they're cheap, because yes, they are under $10,000. Now, the manuals are gonna be more than automatic. An automatic you could probably find around $5,000. And it won't be clapped out either. Now, if you find one for $3 grand, it's probably gonna be pretty bad. G35. This next car sounds incredible. We're talking about the Ford Mother Truckin' Mustang, boy. Yeah. If you like V8 power, you're gonna love this car. And they sound amazing. 4.6 liter V8 producing 300 horsepower and 320 foot-pounds of torque. With that kind of power, this muscle car is ready to throw you in the backseat, whether you're flooring it down the highway or giving it some throttle at a stoplight. I mean, it's a no-brainer. The Mustang GT just sounds great, and it's got the power to back it too. Of course, there's a lot of owners out there that just don't know how to handle all that power, and sometimes they just see a pedestrian and decide to go sideways and hit it. I don't know why. The Mustang came with a bunch of different trim levels, especially as far as the exterior package and interior, but we're gonna talk about just the basic GT, just because there's too many to list out there, honestly. But they did the interior to be simple. It was functional though, and it was good quality too. The leather was really good. It was durable, you know, it lasted a long time. And it gave you a retro restyling look, but you know, at the same time, you still have that American muscle look. And there's a lot of space, so if you're on the bigger side, you feel comfortable. And a large back seat, a back seat that you could actually have a passenger in. Unlike these other coupes that we were talking about recently, this one actually has some space. A large trunk space too, by the way. You could fit a lot of stuff back there. Now, just like all cars, you can get a ton of different body kits for this car. And there are some sweet body kits for this car. It can look absolutely incredible. I mean, Ford made this car to look aggressive. They gave it a wide stance. They gave it even a slight rake to where it just looked aggressive and mean coming down the road. And like I said, there's a lot you can do. The different types of hoods out there for this car make all the difference of it. There's aftermarket support for headlights, taillights, and the headlights, you can get crazy with them. And you can swap out parts all the time. And it's just a good looking car. I think it looks cool. People will see it as you drive by, not only by the way it looks, but by how it sounds as well. So, and going back to the exterior, you can put a big old wang on that thing. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can air ride it, put coilovers on it. Heck, I've even seen them lifted. The Mustang GT, a very, very cool American muscle car that you can get for under $10,000. They're affordable, they're everywhere. You can go on Facebook Marketplace, and there it is, boom, GT. Now this next car blends European style, performance, and a little bit of fun in the sun. We're talking about the BMW Z4. It's a roadster, it's a convertible. Let's dive right into it. The Z4 isn't just about straight line speed. With its rear-wheel drive 5-speed manual transmission and adaptive suspension, this car feels sharp and responsive on the road. The handling is precise with that signature BMW road feel. Whether you're cruising down the highway or carving through tight corners, the Z4 stays planted, ready to throw it wherever you want to throw it. It's just a good looking car. It handles really well, and it's got a luxury appeal to it. Let's talk about the interior. Now, the cool part about the interior, BMW did a fantastic job as far as luxury goes. You sit inside of it, you feel comfortable. It looks good, leather interior. You got a beautiful digital dash, a great sound system, and you can let the top down with just a push of the button. They made it simple, they made it sleek, they made it easy. I will say there's not a lot of aftermarket support when it comes to the exterior. There are a few body kits out there that you could probably put on it, but truthfully, it doesn't take a lot to make it look good. You throw some coilovers on it, or maybe throw some air ride on it, even give it a static look if that's what you're going for, and it just looks good rolling down the road. And you know what? People are gonna look at you and be like, wow, that guy's got some money. When truthfully, you can find these between $5,000 to $7,000 all day. And it's a good car. It's actually, that motor was actually a pretty solid motor. The only con that I would really say is that parts can be a little expensive on it because it is a BMW. And those tops are notorious for going bad because they do have hydraulic pumps and they tend to leak after time. And that can be a very expensive repair. So if you're looking to get one, do your due diligence, do your research, make sure you're ready to afford one because you might be ended up throwing a little bit of money at it. But if you're looking for a sleek, just smooth riding, comfortable driving car that looks good going down the road and makes you look like you got money, get a BMW Z4. I highly recommend it. All right, so let's talk about this next car. This next car is gonna be a lot of fun. It makes some great noises. It's got some great sounds coming from under the hood. We're talking about the Mark IV GTI, boy! Now, if you can't tell, I'm really biased about this car. I'm a big Volkswagen fan, always have been, always will be. It's got a 1.8T, can't beat, boy, oh my gosh, making 180 horsepower, having 173 foot-pounds of torque. It's not the most powerful car on the road, but it's quick enough to get your adrenaline going, and it's turbocharged. It's got boosty boy noises. You like boost? Do you like power? You're gonna like this because you can tune them to make a lot of power out there. And it just sounds really good. There's so many different exhausts that you can put on these to make it sound great. And there's a lot of aftermarket support for that motor too. Now the interior is absolutely terrible. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you it's bad. It's not good, stuff falls apart on it. The headliner sags all the time. The windows will start to peel up just because, and it smells like crayons just because for some reason Volkswagen, the adhesive that they used, it just didn't hold up that very well. Now the seats were pretty tough and durable, and I will say when it comes to the dash, it's more, I think it was up ahead of its time, if I could say that, because it had a really nice display on it with some really neat lights on it. And the cool part about the GTI is even on the shifter, you can get some models that look like a golf ball. Hence the Golf GTI. Really, really cool car. I think it's fantastic. Now let's talk about the exterior. There is a lot of body parts that you can get for this car. You can make it look sexy. Because right now, just bone stock, they're kind of mid, I guess, is that the term? But you can absolutely make it great. There's a lot of body kits out there that can really raise the hood up a little bit. It's called a Bowser hood, looks really good, makes it look really aggressive. There's a really cool front bumper and side skirts and rear bumper. There's a lot that you can do to the exterior. You can upgrade the headlights, the taillights, and it's cheap too. That's another part. The parts for this car are cheap, which is awesome. Now, it is front wheel drive. It's not rear wheel drive, but it still hooks really great. And it hugs corners very well. The suspension was just really good. And you can do a lot to it. You can lower it and it will just look aggressive right out the gate. A lot of people do air ride because air ride's actually fairly cheap on that car. You don't have to spend bucos of money, and just because it's such a small car, it's easy to run lines. And once you get that air ride going, it changes the whole look of everything. And like I mentioned before, it sounds incredible. Great boosty sounds. Also, you can get these cars really, really cheap. Now, for a really clean and mint one, yeah, you might spend $8,000 to $8,000. I think if you're spending over $8,000, you might be spending a little too much. But you can find these for as low as $3,000 to $5,000. And it's just a good all-around hot hatch. And I think it absolutely looks cool. And you see them at all the different car meets and car shows just because it's a good, fun, and affordable car that makes awesome sounds, performs really well, and is actually pretty torquey. The Mark IV GTI. Pick you up one while they're cheap. Now this next car loves to hit the rev limiter. It loves being in the high RPMs, it looks good, and it's called the Acura RSX Type S. Yeah, we're talking about the Acura because it is just a beautiful car and it is an icon in the JDM world. Now, under the hood, the Acura packs a punch with a 2.0-liter dual overhead cam VTEC 4-cylinder engine. Now, this engine puts out a healthy 200 horsepower and makes about 142 pounds-foot of torque. It's not the most powerful car in this segment, but what it lacks in raw power, it makes up for high revving nature. The RSX Type S loves to scream all the way to its red line, giving you that pure, exciting VTEC experience. Acura hit it out of the park with this car. Now, let's start with the interior. The interior is beautiful. It's got a sleek design. It puts you in some nice bucket seats with actually a fairly good sized back seat as well. And the leather is very comfy. I know because I just own one and I recently just got rid of it recently. But it's a beautiful car and the interior is just smooth. It's clean. It gives me a JDM purist feel whenever I sit inside of it. But the interior is just great durability too as well. Like it was built to last and it has that modern feel to it. And there's a lot of upgrades that you can do. I mean, just like every car enthusiast, you can upgrade the seats, the steering wheel, the radio. There's a lot of things that you can do, and it'll be cheap to do too. So that's a great part. Now, the exterior on this car is absolutely incredible. I think people love this car so much just because of purely of how it looks. It looks cool, and that's what we're talking about, is cool cars. And it's definitely gotta be on the list. I would think a lot of people would agree with me. Because it's got that sleek front end. That nose on that car just points and it's real edgy and its fine lines go all the way down its body. And then on top of that, it's a hatchback too. And it's also got a pretty sweet wing. We put an Integra Type R wing on it and it changed the whole look of the car and it just looked good. You can get a great body kit for it. You can put some side skirts on it and you can throw coilovers, air ride, just like all the other cars. You can do all these things for a low budget. And you know what? You'll pull up to a car meet and people are gonna look at it because you don't see as many of them out there, which is another cool factor. Having a car that most people don't have is always a win in my book. So is the Acura RSX Type S still worth buying? Absolutely it is. It's a very cool car. It's reliable, it looks good, it's got some great sounds that you get. The unmistakable VTEC sound, you can't pass that up. It loves that rev limiter. It's a driving experience. Now this next car on our list is not your typical cool car, I would say, because it's got 4 doors. We're talking about a sedan, but it's luxury. We're talking about the Lexus IS300. Underneath the hood of that Lexus is the infamous 2JZ motor that everybody knows. You'll find a 3.0-liter inline-6, a legendary Toyota powertrain known for its smoothness and reliability. This engine makes about 215 horsepower and 218 foot-pounds of torque, which may not sound like much by today's standards, but it delivers a punchy driving experience, especially in a car this size. It's paired with a 5-speed automatic transmission, or if you're lucky enough to find one, a 5-speed manual transmission, which is an absolute blast to drive for enthusiasts. Now, what makes the IS300 so much fun to drive is its rear-wheel drive layout. This car gives a more connected, balanced feel on the road, and it's one of the reasons why the IS300 has such a loyal following. It's great for spirited drivers, and with the right amount of throttle, it'll even let you have a little fun in the back end. The Sport Tune suspension makes that car feel nimble, and while it's not a track car, it's absolutely capable of providing a sporty, engaging driving experience. Now, when you hit the corners, the IS300 feels composed and precise. It has a slightly firm ride, but it's comfortable enough for a daily use. You get the perfect balance of comfort and performance with just enough athleticism to keep you engaged behind the wheel. It's a car that's easy to drive fast, but also refined enough for everyday cruising. Now, the cool part about the Lexus is the interior. It's got a beautiful interior that's made to last. Alcantara seats. It's got a modern dash. It's digital display, and it's did really good with just being comfortable and practical. And it's got the luxury features of heated seats, power seat options, of course, power windows and power sunroof, all the power features. And at the same time, you could throw your family in the back seat. It's a beautiful looking car too. Let's talk about the looks. it looks aggressive. It's got aggressive headlights, got aggressive front end, but a sleek design, and it smooths out in the back. Now, there's a lot of aftermarket support for this car, a lot of aftermarket support. And there are so many different things you can do with it as far as cosmetic goes. There's a lot of body kits out there for it that you can make it look really aggressive, you know, just like anything else. Coilovers, air ride, when you lower a car, it just immediately looks better. And you know what? They did a great job when it came to this. You lower that car, you put a sweet sound to it, and you're driving around and you have a great daily that is reliable, fairly fast, and just comfortable. Now the manuals, I will say, are a little bit on the higher side. You'll probably spend between $8,000 to $10,000. An automatic you can find between $4,000 to $7,000 all day. But still, it's not a bad budget at all. I think it's fantastic. It would be a great beginner car. It'd be a great, daily car. It'd be a great, just fun car just to have. So go ahead and get you one. Now let's talk about this next car. We're talking about a Subaru WRX Bug-Eye. Yeah, it's known for its legendary rally setup, and it looks cool and it sounds good. Let's go ahead and dive into the specs. The engine on this car is well known for its amazing sounds. Under the hood of the Bug-Eye, you'll find a legendary 2.0 liter turbocharged flat 4, also known as the EJ20. This engine cranks out around 227 horsepower and 217 foot-pounds of torque, which might not sound like a lot by today's standards, but remember, this car was designed for rally-inspired performance, not just power. It was made to go. It was made to rip through any conditions. The Bug-Eye, it looks cool and it sounds good. Now, let's talk about the interior. Now, when it comes to interior, there's not really much to say. It's definitely not a luxury car by any means because it was meant for rallying. So it's got a cockpit-inspired feel to it. It's more about that experience. You got those Recaro seats, and they are gonna snug you and make you feel good. It's gonna lock you in, and it's just, like I said, give you that amazing driving experience. It's got a great cluster, so that way you see everything that you need to see to get that performance that you want. Now, it does, of course, have a back seat, so if you want to throw some kids in the back or some friends in the back, you can definitely do that. There's really not much to say about it because Subaru primarily focuses on its performance, and it has a unique look. Let's talk about the exterior. They call it a Bug-Eye for a reason because it looks like a big old bug coming at you. It's got an aggressive wide stance to it, and it sounds incredible. I think it's one of the best sounding cars that you can get. Are they reliable? No, they're not. Most time their head gasket seals are gone, and you're probably gonna have to spend some money on them a little bit here and there, but you know what? You gotta pay to play. That's just the honest truth on them. And the cool thing about the Subaru Bug-Eye is they're very cheap. You see them going for $6,500, $7,000 on the average. Now, you probably can find a really nice one for a little bit more, but you know what? It's just a good car, and I think it looks cool, it sounds cool. Some people hate on it, some people love it. I'll let you be the deciding factor. Now, this last car on our list is probably, it's my favorite car I've ever had. I've had several of them. It's German. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Audi, so I gotta mention it. We're talking about the Mark II Audi TT. I absolutely love this car. It is another hot hatch on our list. Like I mentioned before, Audi screams luxury. When you see that emblem, you think you got money. But let me tell you, you can look really, really cool and fancy and rich for a very low budget. So let's dive into the motor on this thing. It comes from the 2.0 turbo or the 3.2 liter V6. And of course, a lot of people would love to get their hands on that V6 because it sounds absolutely amazing. Let's start with the 2.0 turbo. It's a 2.0 liter turbocharged inline-4 engine that puts out around 200 horsepower and 270 foot-pounds of torque. It's standard, that's in its standard form. And with the Audi's Quattro all-wheel drive system, it's plenty of power for the car size. The turbocharged engine gives you that smooth, responsive pull when you accelerate, and thanks to the Quattro system, you get an excellent traction and stability. And that's in almost any conditions. Now let's talk about the interior. I think Audi knocked it out of the park with this interior. It is absolutely luxury. It is beautiful. You have a beautiful gauge cluster set up with a really, really cool red color theme to it. It's got nice cockpit bucket seats on it. Everything's simple with the design as far as the interior goes. The buttons are well placed. It's got a back seat. You really can't fit anything back there, maybe a small child if you want to, but the hatch and the trunk itself has a lot of space. So there's a lot of comfort features back there. So if you want to store a suitcase or a bunch of other things, you can do that. And you can ride around in it comfortably. It's a very comfortable ride, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And of course, being Audi, you can get things like, heated seats, you got navigation, just depends on what model that you get. But the interior is very sleek and very well done, in my opinion. Now, let's talk about some of the cool features and as far as the exterior goes. There's a lot of body kits that you can get for this car, and it is absolutely beautiful. I think it is a very sleek looking car with some nice headlights. Now, parts can be a little expensive depending on which parts that you get. The headlights can be pretty expensive. Taillights not so much, but when it comes to ground effects, it's pretty reasonably cheap, which is great. Now, a cool factor on the Audi TT is it actually has a wing, but it's hidden. So once you get a certain speed, 75 miles per hour, that wing automatically comes up. It raises up and it helps with the aerodynamics. Another cool thing is say if you want to just have that wing up just because you want it up to look cool, you hit a button and it automatically comes up. It gives it a more aggressive and cool appearance to it. So is the Audi TT Mark II worth buying? Absolutely it is. I think it's a great contender for somebody that wants to get into the car scene and automatically right out the gate look cool, look like you have money even though you don't. You can definitely do that with that car. It's got great performance, it handles phenomenal. It's actually pretty easy to maintain. Those motors are pretty solid. It's the same as a GTI platform. In essence, it's a GTI, but it's Audi's version of it. And I think they kicked it out of the park with this one because it is absolutely beautiful. Click that link if you want to know more about the Audi TT. If you want to see more content of cheap cars under $10,000, click this link right here. All right, y'all, we'll see you next time on Wheels and Whiskey, where we drive fast and sip slowly.